Welcome to Legacy Lounge, the podcast where you'll discover how to lead with purpose and build a legacy that matters. So if you're ready to step into your full potential, show up authentically for yourself and others, and create a lasting impact on the world, you're in the right place. Let's begin. All right, leaders, I am very excited for today's conversation because we are breaking some rules. You know that moment in retail leadership when you realize everything that you have been taught just isn't working anymore? I had mine, and it was during peak season, standing in a store, looking at my team face to face, looking at our metrics on my phone, at how great they looked on paper. But man, it was a huge disconnect in what I was actually feeling in the building. Metrics were solid, but there was something that was missing. Today, we are diving into how to build a team culture that actually lasts and why most retail leaders get it wrong. Let's talk about 3 traditional retail rules that need breaking. Rule number 1. Culture follows metrics. No, actually, it is the exact opposite. When you focus solely on the numbers, you create a team that is only as loyal as their last bonus. But when you build a genuine culture, the metrics follow naturally. Here is what actually works. Start with a connection before a correction. Lead with curiosity before you lead with criticism, and build trust before you build targets. Let me share something real with you. During my time as a senior director, leading $500 million annually across 10 stores, we had this one store that was consistently hitting their metrics, but they were churning and burning their team like crazy. On paper, everything looked pretty stable, but in reality, when you walked in the door and looked around the building, it was a complete mess. So we flipped the script. Instead of starting meetings out with KPI measurements, we started with personal wins. Personal wins, small ones, the kind that never make the spreadsheet. You should have seen corporate's face when they flew in on a jet visit, and I had arrived early to the store they were visiting, and I was with my team before they arrived, and we were just kind of catching up and all the stuff. And instead of just like becoming really tight and just jumping straight into sales and numbers, we were having a real conversation about what win they had from their personal life over the weekend. And my store director started sharing one about she took her kids to a volunteer event and how cool it was for her to witness her kids experience that. And as corporate walked up, they jumped into the conversation. And they started sharing personal wins from their weekend instead of just jumping straight into the numbers. It was like they were waiting for that opportunity to present itself. But anyways, back on track here. Here is what happened when we shifted the conversations and started celebrating the individual small wins that really matter. The team turnover dropped by 40%. In the next 90 days. This store typically would onboard just in time to fill another hole of somebody else leaving. A 40% drop in turnover in 90 days for one building was absolutely incredible. And nothing else changed than making it personal. The sales actually increased because the team members' performance got better, which in turn gave our guests that were shopping a better experience. And it allowed our internal team an easier way to find stuff and meet the guest demand through digital. The customer complaints dropped off a cliff. It was unbelievable. And their overall engagement scores shot up, both from the guest and from the team. Why? Because people started caring more about the people than just the numbers that they produce. Rule number 2, keep it professional. Let's be real. This one makes me laugh. Professional does not mean robotic. Your team needs to know that you are human too. So, quick story. I used to be that leader. The one that has it apparently all together from appearance or looks put together, never shows stress, always professional, until the day I completely messed up a presentation during a meeting in front of my entire team and my boss. And all I could do was laugh. And instead of trying to brush it off, I just sat in the laughter with my team. And I admitted, I am so nervous right now. I think I need to start over. And you know what? They graciously allowed me to. But the whole energy of my leadership team shifted after that. My team started taking more risks. They admitted their mistakes faster. They were finding better solutions, and they became supportive of each other and not just competition. Because when the bigger team wins, everybody on the team wins. But they saw me be human. And that's what they needed for themselves to be able to be more human. Rule number 3, culture builds itself. This may be the most dangerous myth in all of retail leadership. Culture is not accidental. It is intentional, and it is built on daily moments, small decisions, quick conversations, and consistent action. So I want to break this down for you practically. Here is what building an intentional culture looks like. In your morning huddle, don't just talk about business. Ask what's one thing that your leader is proud of yesterday. And if you have a big team, go around the circle. But after you ask that question, be quiet and listen. Really listen. Feedback sessions. Skip the sandwich method. What support do you need to succeed? Ask it, and then actually provide that to your team. With team meetings, before you start talking metrics, ask the question, what is working? What is challenging? And how can we help each other? I remember implementing the last 3 changes that I just mentioned. In the first week, awkward. The second week, still weird. But the third week, people started to actually open up. And by month 2, I was like, okay, somebody turn the fire hose off. This is a lot. But guess what? We had the strongest culture in our entire group. Here is what I want you to take away today. A sustainable team and a sustainable team culture is not built on perfect metrics, rigid professionalism, and accidental moments. It is built on human connection, authentic leadership, and intentional actions. So your challenge for this week is to break one traditional rule. Start one human conversation and do it with somebody that will completely be surprised that you're doing it. Create one very intentional moment and watch what happens. Share your experience with me. I want to know which rules you're breaking and what happened when you did it. Next week, we're going to dive into the secret of authentic engagement And trust me, it is not what corporate taught you. Until next time, keep leading with legacy. That's it for this episode of Legacy Lounge, a podcast dedicated to empowering you to lead with purpose. Remember, leadership begins with you. When you're connected to your values, strengths, and authentic self, you show up powerfully for your team, businesses, and everyone you lead. To authentically lead others, you must first lead yourself. I challenge you to consider, how are you investing in your personal growth to create a legacy that you envision? Thank you for joining me in the Legacy Lounge. If this episode sparked any thoughts or inspired action, I'd love to hear from you. I'm your host, Brenna Rollins-Williams. Connect with me on LinkedIn or other socials, and let's continue the conversation. Remember, your legacy is built one intentional step at a time.